Hello, welcome to Season 1, Episode 5 of OCD Geeks. I'm your host Cris.
And I'm your co-host Jack.
I can't believe May is already here. In no time it will be summer. By the way, what's the weather like in your area? Maybe you are listening from a place where fall season has just begun. Let us know via our social channels.
Here, it's a pleasure to see spring blooming everywhere, happy faces around you, always behind the mask. Has been an enduring time for all of us. How are you doing, Cris?
Same old. I have daily tasks to accomplish, including our podcast project. I'm getting quite interested in ACT in order to improve my mental health. We talked about this topic a few times together off the records, didn't we?
Yes, indeed. I'm sure many of our listeners are already familiar with this concept. Anyways, for those of them who might not know it, could you say a little about ACT, Cris?
Sounds good. ACT stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, a field of study started by Stephen C. Hayes. You can expect a mix of concepts such as mindfulness, acceptance, and commitment to your values.
In fact, many of our mistakes are made because we tend to incur in the same rigid thinking patterns and schemes, reproposing on an unconscious level, and so making it really hard for us to notice and change them. It takes a lot of time and effort to change habits, to set our minds on the right frequency, and patience as well.
You're right, Jack. As said in episode 1, we are not medical doctors, and first of all, we advise you to contact a specialist or a mental health supervisor in order to seek help if you feel like needing it. It's not your fault if you can make it on your own. We did it as well.
That's correct, Cris.
Again, I can't help but recommend the great book The Happiness Trap by Russ Harris. It's one of those rare books that once I finish reading it, I keep it there so I can consult it whenever I need it. I'm sure you have this kind of books too, Jack.
Yeah, let me mention on this occasion one of the best motivational books I've read in years. I'm referring to 12 Rules for Life by clinical psychologist Jordan B. Peterson, that focuses mainly on how we can handle chaos and uncertainty in our daily life, aiming to become more grateful to others and to ourselves. There are bits of philosophy as well, which I adore. If you give it a try, guys, let me know. As Cris clarified, I'll share my opinion in detail further on.
Actually, it might be an interesting concept for a future episode. I mean, sharing our favorite books. Please send us your opinions about it. It will be great to hear your thoughts as well. About today, let's keep talking about our lives as polyglot. You got anything to say on this subject, Jack?
Well, such a life might get very confusing, I tell you. I mean, life is already damn confusing, but I mean more confusing.
Especially, for example, if you don't understand the language your partner or even your kids are speaking.
Or especially if you start mixing up words of different languages in your mind or formulating thoughts in a language which is not your own.
If you are fond of languages, there's a good chance you are fond of puzzles too. The learning can be tricky and entertaining. Using appropriate words in another language means diving deep into a new culture, reshaping the world around you, not taking for granted what you have acquired during the years of native speaker.
It can mean wearing the other's shoes, becoming closer to the other's sensitivity, making yourself more understandable and relatable, despite being born and grown up somewhere else in another context. In this way, learning a language is an act of love. It makes us closer and less lonely.
It's like breaking an invisible wall between you and others. By the way, it's even more fun to notice how some languages might sound awkward or rude to our ears, starting even from a brief introduction to ourselves.
Indeed, Cris. As Jim Morrison said, people are strange when you're a stranger. How about trying to be strangers then? Could you introduce yourself in Japanese? I'm deadly curious.
I'm glad to do that. In Japanese, to introduce yourself, you can simply say your name plus des. So in my case, it will be Cris des. It's quite straightforward, isn't it? And what about Russian?
In this case, you could say Меня зовут plus your name. As for me, Меня зовут Jack. And I could finish the sentence with something like Очень приятно познакомиться с тобой, which means I'm really glad to meet you.
Sugoi. In Japanese it means that's cool, but I'm afraid I couldn't understand much of it. I'm too used to Japanese sound. And let us know if you enjoy learning a language, or maybe you are a polyglot like us. Anyways, we would love to hear your stories and ideas. So, with these confusing Russian sounds in my head, I'm afraid that's it for today. Feel free to reach us at cris.ocdgeeks@gmail.com and jack.ocdgeeks@gmail.com. If you like us to dive deeper into this topic, let us know, or simply follow us on YouTube and Instagram on our pages OCD Geeks. Your support helps a lot to let the world know about the podcast. And until next time, let them talk, our freaks.
We stay tuned on OCD Geeks.